Good afternoon. So it's a pleasure to be back to speaking at GEOINT. A few years ago, I spoke about the larger DHS Geospatial enterprise and the strategy moving the department forward. Today, I'm going to introduce you to the DHS Science and Technology Directorate and the First Responder Mission for DHS. DHS Science and Technology is the research arm for the Department of Homeland Security. This is directly in support of our operating components as well as our key stakeholders. Most folks are very familiar with DHS operating components like FEMA, Border Patrol, and ICE, but may not be familiar with some of the smaller components like Defense Nuclear Detection Office. The U.S. Secret Service is also within the Department of Homeland Security, and the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center. In addition, DHS has unique responsibilities to service the larger enterprise, which includes our state, local, tribal, and territorial partners. So DHS Science and Technology really sits as a bridge between our researchers and academic and development infrastructure in the country, our innovators, and our operators. How do we bring those players together to deliver new capabilities and new competencies to the Homeland Security enterprise? DHS has relied heavily on our state and local partners. Many of you are familiar with the term that Homeland Security starts with hometown security. Well, this gives you some context of the larger Homeland Security enterprise outside of DHS. DHS is 150,000 roughly federal employees. We have about 90 to 110,000 law enforcement agents within representing those agencies like Coast Guard, Border Patrol, Secret Service, and so forth. But in larger context, we really have 5.5 million other stakeholders that connect directly to the Homeland Security enterprise. Those represent the core disciplines across public safety and emergency response. And in addition, that represents, particularly for the commercial sector, about $144 billion annually in operating cost. So there's a significant market there, although it is a constrained market with unique challenges around fielding and testing and assessing capability. The first responder group has some unique responsibilities that were legislated by Congress to directly support these elements of the extended Homeland Security enterprise. We really look at three core disciplines when we execute our research and development mission. One is looking at investing in new technology based on requirements that are submitted both from our extended family as well as our direct operating components. Those could be investments from academic institutions, our national labs, or they could be investments with startups, small businesses, or other commercial partners. We also look to engage with those larger stakeholders, as well as our citizens and our commercial sector, not just from a provider standpoint of their providing new tools and technologies, but our commercial sector in terms of they are a critical component of our cybersecurity and our critical infrastructure security across the nation. So we engage heavily across that stakeholder base to solicit ideas, identify priorities, and target new investments and partnership opportunities. And then third is applying resources. A lot of our resources may be applied not just towards new technology and capability, but particularly towards developing new knowledge, new products, methods, new approaches to the way Homeland Security does its business, as well as our extended missions conduct their operations. One of the things that we have identified over the last several years is really three impact areas. And if you all had followed Trajectory magazine, last year they featured a public safety first responder issue, and they highlighted these three impact areas: protected, connected, and fully aware. We're not just interested in delivering technology to our first responders. We're also interested in making our first responders safer and more secure. The best way a first responder can provide those life-saving missions is if they have trust and confidence that they are protected and fitted properly to perform those missions. That's not always through a widget. It could be through new equipment in terms of new uniforms, new gloves, new other wearable and other advanced technologies beyond just geospatial. However, location and geospatial is pervasive across the predominance of our research and development portfolio. We also strive to not just drive safer and more effective first response, but to spur industry and spur innovation. And that is recognizing that DHS is not going to be able to solve this alone. And DHS is not going to be able to drive and accelerate the pace of innovation without partnering with the commercial sector. And a lot of our acquisition and our research procurement process allows us the flexibility to engage in different types of partnerships with the private sector, not just with our academic institutions. And then the final is securing our communities across America. That's not just making state and local government and our first responders on the ground more effective, but it's also making sure that the public utilities, our private infrastructure operators, and other facets of the community are stronger and more resilient, whether it's building new infrastructure to combat natural disasters or it's enhancing our cybersecurity infrastructure to protect the intelligent grid. So this gives you a flavor of what some of those partnerships and key stakeholders are. You can see that they run from technology users to the components and innovators, private sector, international partners, managers, industry, non-governmental organizations, and grantees. We at Homeland Security do have a strong and vibrant international activity. We have something called the International Forum. We have roughly 28 different international governments, foreign governments, that partner and collaborate with us on research and development investments and priorities. Some of those are the larger partners like Germany and France, to smaller national foreign entities like Israel. And it gives us ability to be a force multiplier. Not only does it provide us access to new innovation and a broader swath of innovation and research, but also opens us up to additional research funding. We don't enter those engagements just by supplying U.S. funding. Many of those engagements also include foreign funding from those key international partners. So the first responder group executes on the first responder public safety priorities for research and development for Homeland Security. FRG, which is the acronym, is organized within 8 divisions. And this kind of flower petal diagram gives you an idea of the diversity of the mission. I sit within the strategic core of first responder group. And then I have some direct responsibilities over several investments within those 8 divisions and programs. We have a program that looks at position, navigation, and timing issues, particularly in terms of P&T disruption to critical infrastructure that may affect the banking sector, may affect our utilities and other infrastructure operations across the country. We have a program office that looks at unmanned aerial systems and how that new technologies combined with satellite and other observers can be combined to improve the situational awareness of the first response and Homeland Security mission. And then we have some disaster programs. We have a flood apex program. We actually have a hurricane program as well within that portfolio. And then we look at some extended cascading disasters like earthquakes and wildfires that can precipitate other catastrophic consequences. We have a National Urban Security Technology Lab. We have information applications and standards. We have Office of Public Safety Research, our Next Generation First Responder Program, our First Responder Technologies Program, and then we have some special projects as well as interoperability and communications. We're heavily involved at OIC in the rollout of FirstNet and Next Generation 911, ensuring interoperability across the nation in partnership with Commerce and DOT. Here are some of the key outputs that we'll traditionally deliver to the enterprise. It could be that we will deliver new commercial products that can be sold by industry. So we may incubate the product in-house, and then we may work with a technology provider to field it and offer it for sale, or we may work with a provider from start to offer for sale. We will test and evaluate government off-the-shelf software, or may choose, if a technology does not have commercial viability, to push it through as a commercial off-the-shelf. Sometimes our investments are a little bit ahead of the market in terms of monetizing those capabilities and those innovations. We produce a lot of knowledge products around methods and approaches, as well as we have a program called SAVER that looks at assessments for commercial offerings or government off-the-shelf offerings for first responder use. And so we put those up on the web and make those available to the larger community to give the first responders some insight into how that product performs against the agreed to set of acceptance criteria. We do training and testing. So we have a program that did human trafficking training for TSA and our other border security officials on how to detect and identify human trafficking at the border. So we've rolled out a series of trainings around issues that are new and emerging, and we have a new training program around active shooters and identifying and responding to active shooter incidents. We have a lot of research around standards, as well as we have several investments in federal after action around natural disasters, as well as national training programs. When we talk about our development process, traditionally it will start with soliciting from the responder community, and our responder community will not just be those extended first responders, police, fire, EMTs, and law enforcement. It will also include our operating components. And then we will start to evaluate and identify what are the requirements, move that through solicitation, all the way to field assessment, and then transition to use. Nothing new here. Most of you have seen a similar model. Our key is, we really strive to do operational field assessments, and then transitions to use our transition strategy is not just finding someone that will own and sustain the capability going forward, i.e. a commercial partner, but also adoption. So making sure that operating components and the first responder community is comfortable and prepared to acquire the technology from that provider. So what are some of the new areas that S&T is really interested in? So we've kind of sliced it down to about 6 key areas. These are broad domains. These are tied heavily to our missions and our operational activities, but it gives you kind of a general idea of where we have interest and are starting to drive our investments in our centers of excellence, as well as our investments in our small business innovation projects, as well as we do prize competitions for startups and PlugFest, and have other mechanisms through the agency for acquisition and investment. Internet of Things. So we are heavily involved in sensors and alerting. Sensors can be more than just orbiters to us. They can be cameras, terrestrial sensors. We have a lot of work in terrestrial sensors. How do we move some of the lessons learned and innovation that's happening in space down to the ground? We still have network requirements that require ground sensors to densify and improve the telemetry on conditions that we're trying to monitor and respond to. Example would be flooding. We have about 8,000 stream gauges that are hydrologic grade across our stream network in the country. But we have a precipitous and emerging problem with flash flooding in the country. That's happening off plane, meaning it's not happening because the stream is overtopping. It's happening because we have pooling and heavy precipitation. You're not going to rely on expensive stream gauges to satisfy that requirement. We need a more affordable, more deployable capability. So we've invested in low-cost rising water sensors that can be deployed in a variety of off-plane scenarios that can complement that stream gauge network and be combined with orbiting information to provide more precise and more near real-time modeling of flood conditions. We've also been exploiting video camera information from our traffic cameras and conducting research on how we exploit that video to detect conditions around different phenomena that then provides another sensing information. The second piece of that is more sensors is great, but if you can't take advantage of the data and you can't get it to the right people, it doesn't really matter. So we have key investments happening in alerting. It could be notifications, which could just be a set of rules. It can be official public alerts, which have a series of regulatory requirements and practices around them on how information gets moved to broadcast to enable and mobilize public response. And it can be very complex in how you move through those gate checks. We have investments in smarter remote sensing and situational awareness. So we're interested in the built environment, the human dimensions of the environment. And as you can tell, DHS is not just focused on one location. We may not be looking at the globe regularly, but we are looking at the U.S. in its entirety and its territories. That's a large area, geographic area. So we're looking at ways to exploit the new space technology and economy to drive better situational awareness and combining that with other sensor information. Big data and more data is a problem. Many of you have heard this already from this venue. So we're interested in high performance computing and artificial intelligence, not just automating and getting the computer to tell us the 80 to 90% that then the analyst can provide context to, but being able to do that in scale and at pace. How do we invest in new basic research and advanced research on new compute power innovation and processing power innovation, given that we're going to have petabytes and petabytes of information coming at us? So we have significant strategic partnerships, not just in the civilian space, but also with our intelligence partners around how we invest collectively in driving better, more efficient, high-performance computing. Behavioral and risk analysis for enhanced decision-making. So I mentioned the product around active shooter training, the products that we've done in training we've done around human trafficking. We continue to advance and innovate around training practices for our first responders, both in terms of their tactical operations, and it could be around how they apply prophylactics, particularly in terms of how we're issuing prophylactics in the war on drugs or the opioid crisis, which DHS is heavily involved in partnership with HHS, as well as how we recognize and spot those at-risk components within the public enterprise and act and leverage our first responders to solve those crises. And then we have investments in advanced manufacturing and wearable technology. How do we move technology to the market? How do we reinvigorate our manufacturing sector with more advanced and sophisticated components? And then how do we leverage this new emergence around wearable technology? Fully aware, fully connected. We need to understand to be able to protect and secure our first responders, how they're doing physically, mentally, their health conditions. We need telemetry on their heartbeats and other telemetry around how they're behaving and responding to the crisis, and then pairing that with other situational and awareness information. And then we're making investments in new technologies and practice around resilient communications and interoperability. How do we deter jamming of GPS, disruptions to PNT? How do we provide more affordable, resilient backup capability if those occur and limit the exposure of the country? So I'm going to show you a few videos to give you some more context to some of the research.
Speed is everything. Victims don't last very long when they're in the rubble pile. As the victims have time go by, they're less likely to survive because of injuries or just simple entombment from dehydration, things like that.
Searching for people buried in the rubble and collapsed buildings has pretty much stayed the same for the last 30 years. We've worked in the past with NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and they came to us and they told us they developed this technology that would use microwave radar to detect human heartbeats.
Finder is a radar that sends a low-power microwave signal through the rubble. It looks for the very tiny reflections caused by the motion of the victim's breathing and heartbeat. Finder can detect human heartbeats and breathing through 30 feet of debris or 20 feet of solid concrete, even if the victim is unconscious or unable to call out for help. Working with the first responders has been the best part of doing Finder. We have learned so much from working with an actual team like here at Virginia Task Force 1.
When they started initial testing with this device, we were able to supply them with a location, make it as realistic as possible, test the equipment, find out some of the things that we would like to see change. At our suggestion, they were able to integrate this into a lightweight, waterproof container that was to military spec that we could actually wear on our back, because everything we take, we carry with us.
We're also looking to have systems you could actually put on the back of a vehicle. We're looking to be able to put one on a quadcopter and fly it over top of the pile and actually scan down, which is much more efficient.
Target markets for this product would be certainly for search and rescue in avalanches, earthquakes, tsunamis, tornadoes, hurricanes, any natural disaster, and any type of FEMA-like agency would certainly need a device like this.
It's northwest of Kathmandu. It's called Chitara. And in Chitara, it was decimated. A number of buildings collapsed, and there were international rescue teams there. In Nepal, Finder was used to augment the search and rescue team. They have a number of tools in their tool belt. Some are canine dogs, some are acoustic measuring systems, some are actual camera systems that they put down in a hole. And Finder was used as a way to confirm other findings. 4 people were rescued directly by Finder.
The technology that we've moved into the hands of operators is using geospatial a little differently than it's traditionally been applied, and it's starting to be used not just on UAS. We have experiments going to move the technology beyond just a handheld device, but also using it to scan buildings for active shooter and hostage crises situations.
Confirm what appears to be a building explosion and fire at the intersection of Hughes and 3rd.
Roger, 734. Additional units and fire are en route. Fire will provide incident command. I'm patching your body cam feed to command now.
Roger, dispatch.
What do we have, Sarge?
Pretty much what the 911 caller reported. Looks like a building explosion.
Fire command is set up 1 block over. Williams and Moore over there.
Audrey, patch this call to Corporal Williams on his radio.
Copy that, Sergeant Parker. Patching you to Corporal Williams, located 2 blocks east on 3rd Avenue.
Williams.
Corporal, this is Sergeant Parker.
Go, Sarge.
You've got incident command setting up over there where you are. I need you to reroute traffic and keep onlookers way back so fire and EMS can get through.
Roger, already on it. Sarge, check your phone. We got an alert.
Audrey, Give me incident command. Any path.
Linked to Incident Command.
Command, this is Sergeant Parker.
Battalion Chief Bender here, Sergeant. I see you're on the northwest corner. From your video, it looks like the building entrance is blocked with debris.
It's going to take some digging to get inside.
We're linked to the closed-circuit cameras in the building. We also have a drone up overhead showing 2 large hotspots on the top floor. But a witness says there are at least 2 people still in the building, so I'm sending a team to the 3rd Street entrance.
I've got 2 civilians here. Who's in trouble?
Fire Team 1, it looks like we have a mayday. Firefighter Thompson is down. Heart and breathing rates spiking.
We're on it, Chief. Got pinned by a chunk of ceiling. We're also bringing out 2 civilians. We put vital sensors on them. The EMS should be getting readings now.
EMS, do you copy the message from Fire Team 1?
Got it, Chief. I'm getting vital signs on 1 firefighter, 2 civilians.
Looks like we have 2 red tag patients with severe burns and trouble breathing, and a firefighter with possible crush injury. I need you to start the IV and get ready to intubate. Audrey, connect me to the nearest trauma center.
Linking to St. Anthony's Trauma Center. 3.7 miles. Estimated travel time, 7 minutes.
This is Miriam Zhang. Go ahead, EMS.
I have 3 victims, 2 civilians, 1 firefighter. I don't have eyes on them yet, but I'm sending you telemetry.
Yes, I see the data. Definitely 2 red tags there. Do you have RSI medications ready and prepared to intubate if needed?
We do. As soon as we get them stabilized and we're on the way, I'll send more telemetry and detailed assessment information.
Okay, we'll be ready. Thanks for the heads up. I'll continue monitoring their vitals and transport.
Audrey, patch me to command.
This is Command. Go, EMS.
Chief, we have 2 victims in serious, maybe critical condition. I'm recommending a medevac.
Copy that. I'll alert aviation. There's a park 2 blocks east of here. Looks like the best landing site. I'll have law enforcement cordon it off.
I have the view from a camera on a building across the street. It looks under control.
I have a white SUV matching the description on 2 traffic cams, headed east on 3rd past Tacony. I think I can pull the plate number from them.
Okay, great work. Let's datacast the route that vehicle's on to all patrol units, and when we get the plate number, let's send that out as well.
Good job, Sarge.
First responders today have nothing like the communications tools in this video, but we are making progress. Through its Next Generation First Responder program, the DHS Science and Technology Directorate is leading the effort to develop these capabilities and get them into the hands of responders in the next 5 years. It's important work that will help law enforcement, fire, and emergency medical personnel save lives, protect property, and enhance security in communities everywhere.
There's a few videos here that are available on our website. You're welcome to, and I encourage you to go peruse. You'll find a lot of different projects that S&T Science and Technology overall, as well as the first responder group, is investing in. How do you work with us? We do have long-range BAs available, funding opportunities available. Those are open. They're broad announcements to the commercial sector, both large, small, startup, as well as academic institutions and national labs. And we do have prize authority. So we do occasionally issue prize competitions based on specific topics, targeted topics coming from our operating components.
We had a multitude of really good questions to keep things on track and on schedule. I'm going to hand these to Dave. He's going to head on over to the left side here. If you have one of these questions or want to talk to him personally a little bit longer, please feel free to do so. Thanks very much, Dave.